Yeah, it's a lot more than people realize.
All right.
Then you scan before,
Gone
then
through
you
everything.
check all. Then
Right.
you Scan, you don't.
The big
scan
document I
before.
didn't get.
Yeah,
all the way
yeah,
through,
because
but
when you
I
think
was
about
like,
it, it's probably, you just think that you check it in and then go on. Yeah, people don't understand how, like you said,
I was trying to do that.
gosh,
and
sorry,
then
this
it's
is
like-
loud. Anyway, how
Going
detailed it
fast
is.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
it does that.
When I have
And then tomorrow is 10 to 2:30, right? Yep. Okay.
Oh. Here.
Somebody's not muted on the.
alphabet.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Do this fast, do this, E to L, and M to the Z. That's
Yeah,
like this.
yeah.
Excuse me,
Yeah, you'll
but
definitely.
whoever T Rashley is, could you please mute? Thank you. Did you hear them? All right, let's call this meeting to order. We'll start out. Is there any public comment this afternoon? Once more, is there any public comment? Hearing none, we'll move on to the next item. Approval of the minutes from January 23rd.
I'll take approval of those minutes.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the minutes from the January 23rd, 2025 meeting, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Mr. Chair, should probably note, this after Ronald, yeah, now city representative. Mr. Christensen.
I was going to do that.
Yeah, it skipped. I should have done it during public comment.
Was one and one on, is that how?
Mr. Reynolds was appointed as voting representative of a city at their council meeting on Monday evening. Or not.
Yeah, for now. Well, he deals with health stuff.
We expect him to be back.
Also.
Okay. The financial report.
Okay, so I emailed you guys the financials earlier this week, revenues, expenditures, and the profit and loss statement. Does anyone have any questions?
I do.
Current as, oh, sorry.
Like the Gates building on the expenses, why would the utilities jump that much? $2,600 in a month of utilities?
Might have to do with when the utility bill hit. Like, so we might not have had 5,200 in February. Some of that could have been in January. I simply report when the amount booked. So it's likely some of that.
When you're looking at like, the 1 month is only $600 and the next month is $2,000 some dollars,
Yep.
3,000.
Actually. Was that the right line? 5,300?
298.
Yeah. It shows the same, like a $2,000 jump, so.
Did we just, yeah, maybe we had 2 months bills paid in the same month kind of thing. That's still kind of.
That'll be when heating season.
Who is it? Who's the vendor, Excel?
It's probably me in Excel, I guess, yeah.
So we take care, my office takes care of the bills. I can dig them out and send them to you if you'd like.
Well, no, I was just curious, why it's,
No, they also made a huge mistake on a building. They were charging us $200 a month and it, there's like a $12,000 or a $15,000 mistake. And I'm not sure what building it's on yet. I have not heard.
that was the question.
Okay, so Jerry, I just need a second to pull things up, but so in February, we had a $7.67 Excel bill, then we had a $1,600 Excel bill, then we had a $3,600 We Energies bill, and then something that hasn't hit yet is about $1,800 to the city of Ladysmith. So a lot of bills hit in February.
Well, it's just, you look at the numbers month to month.
Still a,
Couldn't jump that high.
still a really big gas bill. I want the door get left open or something overnight.
You have no
Yeah,
idea.
we don't know.
And I see it says software support Every one of them has that. What's that?
That is for our GASB accounting. So each lease, each building that has leases is charged that for GASB. And that's an accounting standard we have to follow.
Is that an annual fee?
Yes.
Even enterprise, the utilities jumped a lot, so.
Yeah.
And like Connie said, if you guys want to see those, we have them so it can show you the usage by month.
Well, I was just a question. After you look at it.
Any other questions regarding the finance report?
Just a couple of quick ones. Let's go down the list. We're behind on at the Enterprise Center, Best Enterprises. 2 months. Liberty. Commercial roofing. They haven't paid March yet. Were they moving? Was it Hooper that was moving?
No, Liberty had an office at Fritz Avenue that they vacated. They're still at Enterprise.
Okay.
And yeah, Best Enterprises, I think, is the one that has traditionally been behind.
Yes, they always run between 30 and 60 days in arrears.
And then obviously 501 Doughty Road is empty. And then are we collecting some kind of rent from Indec? It says land lease on there.
Yeah, that's a chunk of land that was originally leased. Because they used to lease both 501 Doughty and 1402 Jez. And then they, as part of that lease land that was across from their actual plant on Meadowbrook Road, and they still lease that. They've got it stacked full of bags of pellets.
Is equipped rental at Gates new?
Yeah, that's on the
Okay.
approvals for this month because we didn't have one last month, but he started occupying it. It's the same gentleman that has A&M Fiberglass. He's just operating it under a different LLC.
Okay. Then we'll talk about the sheriff's office later there, and then Mr. West is behind a couple of months again. But delaying.
Which again is that's a
Right.
consistent thing, yeah.
Has he had any contact with the city about when he expects to be done with the bowling alley?
Not recently. I do see there's quite a bit of work going on there, so
Yeah.
that's positive. But yeah, we will need to know, even for the sake of this, because some stuff's gonna have to get moved so he can get his stuff out of there when the time comes. Kind of gotten boxed into it.
I think that's all my questions. Thank you.
Any other questions? Enterprise Center. So the deadline for bids on the abandoned truck has come and gone. So now the next step of the process is,
So I talked with Rich and he said we have to go through this bid process and then if we don't get any sealed bids, the abandoned truck can be sold as the board sees fit. Like you can scrap it, you can try to sell it on auction. So this actually, since Phil is here, this is under the jurisdiction of the sheriff's office, but Sheriff Wallace did authorize me to put it out for bid, but abandoned property is under the jurisdiction of the sheriff's department, so that would probably be something that they would end up handling.
what's improved? Yes, sir.
I was gonna say, if you recall the movie Super Troopers, they did an undercover thing with a semi truck. I don't know if you guys could use that for similar operations or not.
You can pay for it, get it running, we'll use it.
I think the lack of a key is the hardest issue there.
It'd take me 2 hours to get a key for it. I just have to go down to Eau Claire to the Kenworth dealer and get a key. I already called them, but the deal with that truck is, I think the best process moving forward is to put as little money into that as absolutely possible. So if you guys wanted to, you get a key or two cut for it. But if we get a key, there's nothing saying the thing even runs.
Right.
So a couple options that you have is first you have to title it in the county's name. which is a simple MV form, and Ashley could attach the certified letter that she sent to the last registered owner to that MV form. It would cost us a little bit of money to title it in Ruff County's name, and then you can either scrap it or talk to an auction company to see if they will, you're gonna incur a tow bill if you wanna get the auction. But I've had very good luck using Western Wisconsin auto auctions with the sale of old squad cars. Or you can get a hold of one of the few scrap dealers in the county and see what they're willing to give you.
So it needs a title even if it gets scrapped.
Yeah.
Getting a key for it wouldn't increase the scrap value. I don't know if there's a whole lot of value of putting effort into taking it to an auction. You know, we do have several scrap yards around.
I just get the title and scrap.
Yeah, good.
And I don't know if the scrap yards in Russ County have a way to move a semi tractor.
Yeah, they do.
Martin does. No, if Jed does or not. I'm honestly surprised that they didn't bid on it. Like it's. Because we're scrap, there's,
Can't really scrap it without a title,
yeah.
the whole big thing.
Should we get a title for it, then do the same RFP process and see if that changes the results?
So how Rich explained this to me, I have it right here. I have the form Phil is talking about. I had already filled this out and sent it to Rich. So you can transfer the title if you sell it, or you can transfer the title if you junk it. But we can't just take the title from him without picking one of those two options.
So we have to identify a buyer or a scrapyard at that time? Okay.
Yeah, so the purchaser, like, so if you click regular sale, then you need to fill out the purchaser's information here. If you click junk, we don't need.
I did look at I looked at the RFP and I saw that it said no, there was no key for it. Did it say there was no title in the RFP?
Well, they would get it's an abandoned vehicle, so they would get the title if they purchased it from us.
So they, yeah.
The interior of the, I don't know if you guys,
No.
it's junk.
Yeah.
Like the dashboard is moving all over the place, the stuff's not screwed together, and it's junk in there.
Said the other day, all the tires are flat.
I don't know about all of them, but there were a couple tires that were down.
I think we'd be putting more money into it than it's worth to.
Yeah, I think pursuing scrap would be.
That's what I think. I'll entertain a motion.
Scrap it.
What actually are we doing to solicit offers from local scrap yards or to, I guess I'm not sure what the motion is to
Well, I would.
scrap it or have Ashley select the
Three of
most
them.
advantageous.
That's right.
We only got three in it. Just solicit from them and see who would give you the most and we vote on it next month who gets it. I mean, just anybody.
Or just authorize her to take
Yeah,
whatever.
I think she can take the most advantageous offer and
For on it, whichever scrapyard gives you the best.
have a contact with the three in Russ County.
Yep.
Jed, Martin and Rocky Top.
No, guy in Conrath,
Yeah.
he just came to our storage unit today and picked up 3 vehicles.
Conrad Scrap
Yeah, Conrad scrap.
His name,
starts with a G and I can't.
yeah, it's Grajewski.
Yeah.
Okraski, yeah.
I'll second the motion.
Can I just ask a question then? On the RFP, does it say that the successful bidder will be responsible for removing it?
I don't remember. I can look it up if you want me to.
Thinking that I'd hate to sell it to them and have them figure that we're gonna move it for them.
Oh, but this
Well, this would be.
My quote,
part of the
yeah,
deal on
That's
this.
what I'm asking if it's sensible.
off of our, yeah.
We're beyond the RFP. There were no responses, so.
To sell then?
To have the,
It's junk, yeah.
coordinator contact the local scrap yards and.
Yeah, to authorize Ashley Heath administrative. Sell or to, what'd you put that
Well,
to?
we'd be selling some scrapyard. Junk. I mean, what they do with it is be to them.
I think part it out or crush it.
So the motion's been made and seconded to solicit bids from the 3 junkyards in the county and authorize Ashley Heath to accept the most advantageous one for the county. Those in favor of said motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Boiler hour.
So, all right, so per the board's instruction, I met with Lenny, we did a little bit of work in changing that language in the project scope and specification. Kind of broke down that zone issue that we've run into, as well as increasing of opening the option to increase efficiency per the bidders. The word there. To increase the efficiency of the heating system within the facility, which leaves that open to the bidder's discretion. So if there's any more changes in language that anyone sees that we'd like to do, make some notes. Otherwise, I have highlighted in each packet, the dates. If we are happy with it, but I can get some accurate dates on it and, push it forth.
Oh, the only, July 11th, 2000 to be fully completed. I think that's.
I just threw dates at it, so yeah.
I probably put a fall date on there, so it's, up.
Working before fall.
Before the heating.
I don't think you're gonna get anybody to, gonna get July 11th.
When I put July on there, it started on January 9th, so.
Right.
So maybe change that to like October 1st, maybe.
That's what I said before the heating season. And I know that's not very specific. Same time.
I would say we gotta have,
I put a date in it.
Yeah, it's.
then you're holding the
There's-
bidder to a number and a date.
You can't say, well, it's not, it hasn't froze yet. We don't need to have it on. What's the heating season in a warehouse? So
I would say like, yeah, October 31st, I would put, I mean, that would be my suggestion.
With the painters in there, we usually have the heat on usually before the end of October,
I think October 1st would be.
October 1.
I mean, most of the heating guys got most of the summer lined up already. And the only other one I would just like to see in there is if they're gonna bid on this. Well, it's gonna be expensive, but we gotta have it listed where kind of warranty are they giving us with the system? I know system is hard to do, but we've had this in the past where it's a brand new system and all of a sudden 6 months down the road, we're working on a brand new system. So you've got to be held to, at least gotta last a year. What kind of? Gotta be something in there of what kind of warranty they provide with their work. System they're putting in, cause they're deciding what they're putting in and what.
I can put that in the disclaimer under the introduction. Yeah. To provide warranty information.
Or in the project scope and specifications.
It's just something, they bid on it, now we have. It's happened before, where we're working on a system that's only 6-8 months old.
Add.
You would normally get a year. So I mean, that's, even the manufacturers wants.
Right. But we gotta have something that protects our.
That's fine.
We're accepting them and then all of a sudden they put it in and 3 months down the road, it's not working and here we are stuck in the heating season and we're paying for something we just spent a lot of money on.
The project objective up on the section. So unit, these units. Got the option of putting 2 units in there rather than the 1.
There's 6 zones. You could put in 6 boilers.
You don't need 6 boilers, so there aren't any zones that are that big there.
Didn't we talk about that at the January meeting and we wanted it to be a heating system rather than
Yeah,
boiler unit?
maybe it's
That's why I say put unit/units.
unit or units.
System, because they'll say, well, we can put forced air in and it's a lot cheaper than whatever the boiler is.
He does have on the second line, he's got unit/units. So
That's all I've got. On the second section,
the second.
Under the scope and specs.
Under the,
yeah, and I'm just saying. I think you've got to clarify that you're dealing with unit or units.
that's fair.
So that's in the first section there. But then there's a little wordage, not that it matters, in the bottom of the project scope and specs as well, integrating as zone, whatever. I think that as well as integrating zone metering capabilities. The other thing is, I'd like to have it laid out, or I'd like to see it, how the metering is gonna be done and what it's gonna add to it, because it should be almost negligible. When we were out looking at it, there's only like 2 controls for the whole thing. Yet the wires are all back there, so it's just a matter of slipping it into place, and that's all it should take. So then you can put a thermostat in each one of those, control each one of those zones. And that would make it easier to meter that out long run as far as the heating bills go. Which I think as long as we can do new units, it'd be nice to get each section paying their own heat. And you can do that with the right zoning. Metering.
Is April 9th viable date for the submission deadline for bids? That's pretty quick, isn't it?
I circled that thinking if we're not gonna look at them till the end of the month, we can push that back a week or two.
Usually like a lot of our other meetings, what we're trying to do is have
It's before.
the bids a week before, so they open them up, go through it and make sure that everything, so we're not sitting here and going over the bids ourselves. That are in charge of putting them in, and
So we,
bring us the numbers and we have seen what
so we
a
can,
week before our next meeting would be fine.
For the next meeting, if we did a Thursday, it looks like it would be the 24th of April. Would be like the 7th as a deadline.
that'd be a good.
Fine.
And then the last date I had looking at would be. Okay, deadline, no, we're good. That would be the 17th. Okay. So would the board like me to proceed with these changes made? Getting this to our administrator and if God forbid,
I'll make a note. Repeat with the changes.
Any other discussion?
You have one last question for you, sorry. As far as funding goes, I do not have any funding set out for a new boiler. For that enterprise center, so it does raise the question of where the board would feel is best to take that money from.
That just comes out of the mining fund. For
Still has to be allocated out of the mining fund. By the spots.
The full county.
By
Your
the
budget.
county board.
Revenue.
Yeah, we're getting,
The revenue from the other buildings.
well, from the enterprise center, it's 6,800 and. Small numbers here, about 6,000 a month we're collecting at the enterprise center. The total, we're taking 21 to 30,000 a month, so we don't know what the bid's gonna be.
But either way, that expense isn't budgeted for, so it, according to our financial procedures manual, that would end up being a budget amendment.
On the revenues, are these broke down on what buildings are? Ones are money?
No, that would be a more comprehensive report. You mean which buildings still have debt service?
Yeah.
Oh, shoot.
Gates and both of the forest buildings have debt service. And then I believe all of the buildings have operating debt. I would have to look. I don't have that.
So none of them are.
You mean, are any of them in the black? I don't.
I know we talked about this a few months ago. I could probably dig through this and find those notes, but
Yeah, what was just one?
The boiler, I looked at one similar to the one that's in there now. It's hard to find prices. It's, we'll probably see that, but I was finding them anywhere from $50,000 to $70,000 a unit itself.
I was gonna guess 50,000 in materials, maybe. And we don't know really what we're going to get for bids, so.
Back to where we don't approve the money out of the mining fund, the county don't. Now we got bids out that. The board don't.
You can accept the bid, we just can't pay it.
Right, and that's happening a lot. We accept it and then all of a sudden, no, we got. Board votes down, or we're not.
Yeah, so Jerry is right, Mr. Chair, if you're all right with me, kind of talking about the procedure here is that we have kind of put the cart before the horse several times. And so it would be better if this board would recommend to our finance committee that we would like a transfer from the mining fund and an associated budget amendment. Once that's approved by our finance committee and our county board, then the funding is actually there for this. So I mean, you could argue chicken and egg to John's point, like, well, we don't have the bids in, so how much do we know we need to transfer? But on the other hand, you have no money right now allocated for this. You have a $10,000 repair line for the enterprise center and you've already spent $1,000 through mid-March.
Well, I guess it would be kind of,
So if we accept a bid, can we accept it pending approval of amendment to transfer money from the mining? Because they have until the 1st of October to do this. We're not gonna get a bill until November. So we have, we can take a month to, accept the bid pending a budget amendment to move the money.
How do you keep the bid,
Confidential.
as far as, once you open up the bids publicly, and everybody knows where the numbers are at, and if somebody comes in and says, geez, I can't do it, well, you still got our bid, the other bid. And I think that you've got to keep that confidential until you know that you're gonna do it this year.
we've run into it quite a few times, Dan. I think we need to get the funding source before we advertise for the bid. I mean, if we can get an estimate on what it's gonna be, we always try to estimate it high. 19 sells 17 of us, I think.
18 now.
18 now,
No.
but
At 18.
everybody,
In good conscience, I couldn't give you an accurate number whatsoever.
run into it a lot, and then most contractors, if, they're putting a bid out, they're only gonna, hold that bid for so many days.
You're gonna get 30 days and that's about, if you're lucky.
15 was some.
They don't, because now their number's out.
And they would probably order most of those materials the day we accepted the
Boilers
bid, because they're going up every day.
It's just kind of, in my opinion, is kind of early to send this out because we don't have a funding source for it.
Okay, but going back to how do we know how much money we need for it?
If we can get a contractor to estimate it,
You have an engineer. The county have an engineer they use a lot.
Bridge engineer, but
What's the BTU unit on the existing?
The existing had that, I believe it was 750,000 BT.
I would almost think that if you've got even the city as a contractor, an engineer that they use a lot of, they could get somebody to basically shoot them a rough number. For a replacement of a 750.
you just need a rough number to the board. Say,
Right, that's what I'm saying.
It's an estimate.
And it doesn't even have to be anything that gets published. Just a number so that you know roughly where you're at and at that point,
Yeah, you don't want, there's not so much money you actually got.
it's gonna cost us $100,000. How do we fund it?
Bidders will know if they read the meeting minutes, though. I don't know how many are that savvy, but
Right.
yeah, if county
Either
board
way.
approves 200 grand,
What they're bidding against other contractors.
Your finance committee can meet. I was gonna say in secret. They can meet in, closed session, can't they? Your finance committee?
Do they normally do that for, I guess, this is kind of a unique situation where you don't.
Well, normally we come with an estimate and get it, figure out estimate how much it's gonna cost, and then we put it out the RFP is how we're doing it. It's good practice now for us. This has come up a lot where you send them out and then don't approve it because we figured out how much it's gonna cost. Well, now we don't have the funding for it. We're gonna spend that much on it.
I'm thinking that you can get a number ballpark from an engineer or an engineering firm. And then you take that into closed session with finance, something together with the RFP. I mean, as long as they've got a number, and those are issues I think you can discuss in closed session, both at finance as well as at the county board. You're dealing with an issue that has an impact on the community as well as projects that they may be doing. So I agree with Jerry that you've almost got to have a number of some sort.
Take the finance to know how much is the budget, out of the money fund for this.
You got this, is there an engineer that the county uses quite a bit?
As far as the county for heating, no, we don't, nothing like that. Of the
City
city,
was like Crane or any of our heat guys now,
Well, would they,
estimate.
You're not holding anybody.
see also, yeah, I don't know.
It's just that they would base it on numbers of projects that they've already bid this year.
Similar to, yeah.
And just basically take a number out of that. That's all we're looking at. It's 100,000 BTU. You could actually, depending on how you wanted to do it, you could probably get from a wholesale supplier like First Supply or somebody, or whoever you want to use. And just basically say, I need a number for 100,000 BTUs or, excuse me, 1 million BTUs or 750,000, somewhere in that area, between 1 and 2 boilers. Hey,
Let's meet again.
They meet on the April 17th.
No, that got changed, didn't it?
In the morning, I thought.
That's right.
Yeah.
It is, it's in the morning.
That'd be my recommendation, is not to send out the RFP and get an estimate. We gotta get a funding source for it.
You have a motion on the
I'll
floor.
rescind my motion.
Want to rescind it? But Mr. Kenyon seconded it.
it's in the second.
right, yeah, can I rescind my second?
Okay.
Do you have a designer working on your highway shop or anything from the jail that could? You could throw on the hypothetical of, 750 BTUs for a highway shop between 2 boilers.
That may be, yeah, actually.
Me,
CUNY.
it's construction meet again.
7th.
Instructions meeting, yeah, 7th. I knew it was not next week. I just didn't know the days right.
Just as a thought.
I mean, everything else is good at, the wording. The only thing we'll have to change is the dates, because the dates will change now on the RFP, but the RFP look good. Except for the few changes we make, except for, we just don't wanna do it quick, you know what I mean? We run into that with other property stuff where
Is there, I guess legality wise, is there a difference, if I understand correctly, because of the cost amount, there's a difference in an RFP and a request or an advertisement for sealed bid?
Yes.
So that sealed bid, is it something where we could basically have the committee select that bid? We're back into the same issue with that suggestion.
Great.
Mhm.
Try not to frustrate contractors either, stringing them along for.
that's why I don't wanna send this out right away and then you approve them and also there's no funding for it, so I don't know, how do you pay for it?
Yeah, because at the point of, if I start calling contractors, asking for estimates, and then little while later bids come out, I might have contractors calling me going, "Well, what are we doing here?"
I mean, I'm pretty sure CUNY has a number. Architects, what they're doing for systems. That would probably be our best bet, is to ask them, or
BTU and square footage of the building.
Yeah.
Mark Johnson's working on the jail with them. They've been to a few of our meetings and,
Oh, Joe at Market, I could call Joe. Yeah.
I mean, that they'll give us a figure. They know, they gotta figure out how much it costs per square and BTUs and can give us an estimate and this is what we want done.
That's a good idea.
We want,
Sounds good.
You two will work it out,
Yeah, we can do that.
and then get it to finance.
Perfect. Thank you.
Do we need to do anything before finance does?
Yes, so my suggestion, Brian, if you're okay with it, would be that this body should probably make a recommendation to the finance committee to consider funding the project from the mining fund and whatever associated budget amendment that would result in.
Okay. Sounds good.
Recommend what?
Recommend funding the Enterprise Center boiler
Project
project.
using funds from a mining fund.
Okay.
So the motion's been made. Jerry Biller. Your bill.
They rescinded that one.
No, we made a new one.
Just made a new one.
I didn't hear.
She just told me.
Yeah, you just
What she just said.
recommend to the finance committee allocating funding from the mining fund for a boiler project at the enterprise. Center. Need
Second.
a second.
Can you?
There we go.
Put it off. Not, you say you don't want to make all these contractors mad either, and get out of it.
They're easy to change.
We've still got quite a bit of time before heating season starts again.
Right. We got a quorum there. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Aye. Carried. Okay. Next. Christians. Who believes that friends? I don't have any details beyond that.
Not regarding that, I do have a question for the board, though. I do have an update that I didn't feel was worth adding to the agenda, just on the library, if you'd like me to wait till the end to make that update, or whatever works for the board. So I meant to do that in public comment, but I missed that one too.
Take it now.
Sure.
We're waiting. So, go ahead.
I just want to give an update. So with our library, I filled in Mr. Biller here as he's now the property chair. They had sent a letter out to me in February, just bringing this up now due to seeing a few meetings. Spoke with our administrator and legal counsel as well. Letter from the library board basically stating that the library director was a sole determinant of whether help from maintenance is needed to maintain and has a right to hire other maintenance staff into Ross County's maintenance department. And she asked that we not go to that building unless we were asked to. Generally, we do daily checks, making sure the boiler, everything's running good. Legal counsel advised that I take this to my direct oversight committee, but because it is a joint owned building, just wanted to make you aware that we are still going to maintenance when we're requested. But we are not doing our daily checks to look for issues. So
Okay.
it's kind of a gray area right now. Hopefully, in a week or so, when I meet with my direct oversight committee, I will have.
They asked that, the library asked that you not do daily checks?
They did. Yes, and they said their language is that we were only to go to that building and. So I advised, I got the letter, I advised that we do daily checks. They waved us off.
Okay. Well, that seems kind of odd.
So we're billing, the county is billing the library board for that time there, and so they feel like they don't have, real good authority over the use of the library funds when that happens. I think that's where that's coming from, but I feel like it being a government building that's jointly owned by us. The library board didn't pay for the building. They might have control over the funds there now.
They
And
did state a Wisconsin state statute. I'm no lawyer, but I feel it was a little bit out of context regarding how this building is owned. But
How many people does the county, sorry, put on the library board? You've got at least one supervisor, right?
Because
Citizens.
I've been,
Sorry,
all I've been doing,
sorry to interrupt.
no, not a problem.
second.
Because I think that board is jointly comprised.
right.
Yeah,
Yes.
because that statute, it says the library board also shall have exclusive charge, control, and custody of all lands, buildings, money, and other property. But they don't own that building. So that's where I feel that statute is a little bit out of context.
So on the library board is Mr. Willingham, Leah Fuse, Nathan Johnson, Cheyenne McKenna, Anna Kaufman, Kathy Plahuta, and this is Judge Barna.
Okay, and do you have a breakdown on like who's the county appointees and who's the city?
The only one that Dave Willingham is listed first, and then city members are the Leah Fuse, Nathan Johnson, Cheyenne McKenna, Anna Kaufman, and Kathy Plahuta.
Thank you.
So currently, yeah, that's where I stand in that situation, and hopefully we can get something worked out.
On the phone, weren't you?
Still on the other.
That's part of how it's, I mean, if you're gonna take a number to finance, that's gonna give you the
They're
number.
gonna go to Market and Johnson,
Oh, that's fine.
them also. So,
Maybe you can get a few and go with the highest one at least for this purpose. Let's see if they're in the.
so when you guys were out, motion was made and seconded and voted on and approved to authorize or recommend to the finance committee funding for this project out of the mining fund, this mining fund. Oh,
Good enough, thank you.
all right. So the Fritz Avenue,
Yeah, approve lease. So I just handed out a sheet. It's in reverse order from the agenda. My apologies. So you'd be looking at the second one down. Sam O'Keefe. Looking for 3,000 square feet, and the rate we've been using at Fritz is $2.50 a square foot plus 93 cents. For utilities for a grand total of $3.43 per square foot. You'd be looking to lease that, April 1st through the end of May. He's got his own warehouse, but where he's at, subject to weight restrictions. Oh, sure. For his township and county roads. Obviously, the city, he doesn't have to deal with that, so, he's been the one renting space in Gates, I think the last 2, maybe 3 years.
Yeah.
And, the current temporary tenant, Woolsys Northwest Refrigeration, whatever you
Mhm.
wanna call them, said they will be out by the end of March
okay,
with all their stuff, and so. And yeah, this will just be a short term. I did break down to what the total anticipated income would be. Figured trying to take this approach going forward of just the real nuts and bolts stuff and not printing out a 10-page document that's mostly boilerplate was more effective. Otherwise, I can go back to the full draft lease if you want.
Yeah, I'll move approval of Sam O'Keefe's lease at the Fritz Avenue facility based on the terms provided.
second. Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the lease for Sam O'Keefe? The terms stated on this document signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Thank you.
Yeah, I put ADF on here, just, it's one of our buildings. Are there any issues, any items there? Update on the two buildings on Jess and Dowdy?
Yeah, they're, that infill's fully enclosed. They've been, trying to get the ground to thaw. so they can pour the flooring. They got all um, the foundation and stuff in, but never poured the floor before we got too cold. So looking to do that now. Electrical's all up. They were tying all the gas together, so it's coming along. I think they even bumped the anticipated completion date from mid-June to mid-May, you know, knock on wood. We
That's
don't get that
encouraging.
with construction a whole lot, but and yeah, that draft lease with the terms that we had outlined
Mhm.
is with the prospective tenant, and they're having their corp counsel review it, so.
Okay.
And if, yeah, anyone wants to go out and look, you're welcome. If you need an escort, let me know.
Certain times of day better than others, or?
Nope, with dad's health issues and a new baby on the way in a month, everything's kind of a crapshoot, but I'll do my best to make it work.
All right. Okay, anything else on that property? Right. Everyone's favorite topic, Gates Avenue. Oh,
Yeah, the
approve the lease there.
Yeah, so that'll be the top one on that same sheet from the Fritz Avenue approval. Name is Equipped Rental. They're looking to lease 1,000 square feet, and this is the same gentleman that has the fiberglass operation. What he's done is gone and picked up a few pieces of equipment, like a scissor lift, some different stuff like that. Is looking to run a equipment rental business, I guess. So, you know, I don't know if the county has a scissor lift, but if yours goes down and you have work you need to do, you can go rent one from him, kind of a thing. So the space he's looking to lease is essentially available. It's the space between where his fiberglass lease ends and where Mr. West's storage lease begins.
Okay.
So yeah, approximately 1,000 square feet, and the rate that this body had set was $3 per square foot annual. I suggested the initial lease terms just to be 10 months so we can sync it up to a calendar year after that. I think that was the finance department's request a couple months ago, that we start trying to gear everything toward that. So what you should see in lease revenue during that first term would be $2,500.
I'll entertain a motion to approve that deal.
So moved.
All right.
And he did already start moving stuff in there, so kind of in good faith, he paid March, so that's why we're putting it as a March start date. He paid that, I guess, not knowing for sure if he'd get approved or not,
Okay,
just so everyone's aware.
all right. So any further discussion regarding the lease? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the lease to equip rental at Gates Avenue building for the term specified in this document? Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, Sheriff Department reviews. Discussion. No action. I'll open the floor.
So I'll start. I asked the chairman to invite you here, 'cause we didn't want you to walk into something not knowing where we were here. The sheriff's department's been in that building in Gates Avenue for a while.
Late 2018, I think.
Yeah, we've been talking, well, I've been here for the last 2 years. We talk about it just about every month. And I guess the basis of that property is that the money to fund that property was based on economic development and required to report on number of jobs created and sustained and so on and so forth for that. And Mr. Christensen is concerned that he's going to go to prison for lying about that because the sheriff's department doesn't fall under those requirements. My concern is more along the lines of we don't have any money in that space that could be collecting us money. So a few months ago, we've been assigning, what was it? What was the rent? It was $3 a square foot. Everybody else in the buildings is paying $3 a square foot there. And I'm kind of looking for a plan for the use of that building. you know, we're kind of in a situation where we can't really continue with what we're doing today, and Al might have more about that, but I'm just looking for a plan for the long-term use of that building and your storage needs there.
Sell the building?
Not with that loan that's on the property stating we only use it for the prescribed processes there. So if we got to that point, Al would have to lie about your use there.
I mean, the whole building. Can the city sell it to the county, or can the county sell it to the city?
I don't believe so without going, over what the uses have been, just based on other ones that, cause you still have to release the mortgage that we're both under. And in order to do that, you have to write a nice letter to the folks at EDA and tell them how much money you got. You know, they have all this information, but you have to tell them how much money you got for the project, what the intended use for it was, what you used it for. Yeah, basically.
How long has the city or city county owned that building?
I think the county took possession in 2001 from the grant documents I looked at, and we kind of jointly took it on,
About 2003,
Yeah.
2002, 2000,
give or take.
post tornado,
We still owe money on it?
Nope.
not on that.
We're still under a performance obligation, for lack of a better term, that one document says expires 15 years from when it was executed. Another document says 20 years. And then if you actually dive into the CFR code that is referenced in both of those agreements, it says it's in force until the EDA gives you permission to remove it. And you have to request that in writing, which then, yeah, takes us back to me going to prison.
When were those documents signed? The 15 and 20-year thing?
2004, October of 2004.
So we're past the 20 years.
So we're at a point now where we'd
No.
like to, where we could apply for release of those, but we're in a situation where we can't.
Because we illegally used it for X number of years.
So if we don't owe any money on it, right?
Not unless we tell them that we used it improperly, and then they could reclaw the entire 900 some thousand that they gave us to fix it up.
My question is, if we own it, we don't owe anything on it, how come we can't sell it?
Because there's a mortgage on it, which secures the money that the federal government put on it. It wasn't a loan like that you have to pay back yearly or monthly, but it was to secure the interest for the close to $1 million that they put into it. So essentially, worded a different way, a forgivable loan, if you meet all their requirements and do what you said you were gonna do, which in this case, we haven't done for the last 5 years, 6 years.
So if we've been in there since 2018, did you call it the EDA?
Yes,
Have they done any sort of audit?
they have not.
Do we think they're going to do an audit? Because we're past the 20 years?
There's the potential to do that. And again, I'm not gonna sign any letter falsifying any information to the federal government. Cause I'm not a liar or a cheater. I don't anticipate that you are either. But, yeah, I'm not putting my butt on the line for that. If anything, I'd contact them and let them know what's going on. Try to absolve the city of any responsibility in the wrongdoing, if I'm gonna be completely honest.
If we could get a release from it, would your preference be to have the county buy out that building and continue the use of it? If we could get a release from that?
This is personal opinion, Mr. Chair. This is going off the rails here. I don't think it really matters what the chief deputy's opinion is, or my opinion, or Connie's opinion on this.
But I guess I can continue then if you were finished with most of your questions. I did supply the joint management chair with what I think is pretty much all the pertinent documentation on this. I know you've just been reviewing some of it as recently as this morning, but is your opinion changed at all on our obligations or what the what federal law says.
I haven't reviewed enough yet on those last documents you sent because I didn't get them until about noon or 1 o'clock, somewhere in there.
Yep.
But what I do feel strongly about is in 2018, when this body agreed to let the sheriff's department use that building, it was agreed upon under a temporary condition.
Yes.
And it was also stipulated at that time that if a potential renter or lessee wanted that building, that the sheriff's department would vacate at that time so that it could be rented out. Now, I've been told, but I haven't seen documentation that there had been interested parties or that they decided not to pursue it for fear that the sheriff's department wouldn't be out and it wouldn't be a viable thing for them. Also, 2 years ago this month, the property committee at this county discussed this. And in that video meeting, on the video, they stated that the county would look into alternatives for the sheriff's department to store things. And to my knowledge, nothing's been done in that regard. So that's bad on us. That's the county's fault. And we need to rectify that. That all being said, the sheriff's department still has nowhere to go. There are no options right now. So this body, like it or not, we need to work with them, but they need to work with us too. County needs to work with us, and we need to come up with a solution. Because in my opinion, that building should be used for a rent-paying, revenue-generating operation. And that's not happening right now.
And that's why we joined forces and why we applied for the funding. That was the stated use, was rental to the private sector for economic development. To your point about turning people away, I do have an email here from an interested party back in 2023, February of 2023, looking for 10,000 to 20,000 square feet of industrial space in Ladysmith that needed to include overhead doors and loading docks, as well as a few power requirements and an email response from the county saying that no such facility is available. And if you take the 20-year time frame, erring on the side of caution, we were still absolutely under the EDA requirements at that time. So there's some evidence that you have to hold for at least 7 years by open records law that literally shows that we were not actively trying to fill that with a paying private sector tenant that came out of this building. I also have here email correspondence with Tom Barron, who's the economic development rep for Wisconsin from the EDA, where I asked him, I just have to find it here. I'll read it. Are there any EDA programs that assist local governments in constructing facilities for government fleet storage, law enforcement evidence storage, emergency response vehicle storage, or anything of that sort? I know we have gotten USDA assistance for things like that in the past, but was wondering whether EDA had anything like that as well. And Mr. Barron's response was, I would say EDA funds typically cannot be used for the support of general local government operations. I can keep going with emails, but a couple different times, and I think this goes back to when Mr. Alvarado was here, when Mr. Kozlowski was here as an interim. Numerous occasions had sent alternative locations for a storage building. I even went so far as to source pricing information from the interested sellers, and as you can see, nothing ever happened with those. You know, there were sale opportunities ranging from $150,000 to $350,000 for buildings that were 10 to 15,000 square feet in size. Mr. Chief Deputy, I think, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but during one of our tours of Gates Avenue, I believe it was you that commented that you could probably get by with half the space that was being taken up in Gates.
Not half. We still need both sides of that wall, but like the office areas, we don't need that. There's those 2 rooms on the east side of the building. We wouldn't need that space. But I was just out there on Monday, all of our new radio equipment, and with, all the vehicles that we own, the boat, the snowmobile, the Ranger, trailers, speed trailer, and then the 8 or 9 evidence vehicles we have out there. We would need that much space. The big area of Gates. Where we have you been out there?
Last summer, yeah.
Where all the vehicles are.
Right.
Then we have those, I think it might be 4 offices that are in that area with a whole bunch of smaller evidence storage, because the only evidence storage we have here is a little tiny room in the Sally Port.
And I guess a follow-up question, and I think I asked this to you once before at a county board meeting and you started to answer it, and then the court counsel cut you off because the county doesn't take questions from the public during regular discussion, but you were kind enough to at least start answering it. And I think where the question and the answer were going was, does the county need indoor heated storage for evidence and evidence vehicles? Or can those be stored outdoors in a chain link fence?
What the crime is, so if we have a homicide tonight and we take 2 vehicles as evidence, those vehicles need to remain in the same exact condition they were as when the possession of them. There could be an appeals process with that case, so investigators for the defense would want access to those vehicles possibly 2, 3, 4 years down the road. They're outside, they're not gonna remain in the same condition.
How many square feet do you need?
We need whatever Gates is, whatever, that seems to be a sufficient amount of space for us, because we have to get flatbed trucks in and out of there too.
It's not set up real convenient for that. I feel like if it was set up better, it could be less square feet. Jerry had a way to get in there and, cause he's got to kind of jockey around to get to the vehicles he's dropping off.
Drive through, overhead door, but we don't have any buildings like that.
Okay, couple more and then I should be able to yield. Vehicles and evidence has to stay in kind of the same condition you brought it in. What I gather from that.
Yeah, because when it's in our possession, we're responsible for that. So even if, let's say, we take possession of a vehicle and store it outside and the tires dry rot and the dashboard fades, we are not returning that vehicle to the owner in the same condition it was when we took possession of it. They could absolutely bring us to court and say, "You had my vehicle for 4 years. I have pictures of it when you guys got it. Now this is what it looks like. Unacceptable. You guys owe me how much money to fix it."
Does that apply to depreciation that vehicles go through while they're stored anywhere over 4 or 5 years?
This condition.
I know when we've been through there before, there's been black mold noted in offices and stuff like that. Is the possibility that black mold gets into vehicle fabric a concern at all? Is it a concern with any paper evidence or other organic type material?
All of our permanent retention records are out there and in boxes and haven't had an issue with that.
Then I had done some homework, and again, this was back in 2023, late 22, so stuff might have changed, but I did call a few other sheriff's departments to ask what they use for their evidence vehicles. At least at that time, Chief Deputy Jason Liu apologies if I pronounce these wrong, with Barron County. Said they use an unheated concrete pole shed and then 2 heated areas that are about 30 by 30 for evidence vehicles. Chippewa County uses unheated indoor for vehicles that need to be processed, and then they're taken outside to a fenced area after processing, and that was from Lieutenant Darren Williams. Clark County uses indoor space for vehicles needing trace or biological evidence, and special sheriff vehicles. The indoor space has heat and AC and is a former small engine shop that the county actually purchased. Outside is regular evidence that can consist of up to 15 to 20 vehicles in a fenced area. And that was Captain Kerry Kim. Price County utilizes both unheated buildings and fenced, according to Chief Deputy Bob. He didn't give me his last name, just Chief Deputy Bob. Sawyer uses an outdoor fenced area, according to Deputy Halber. Not sure if that's any relation to Mrs. Halber from the county board. Taylor County homicide / important goes in large building with minimal heat, outside impound with barbed wire for other evidence. And they've determined that elements won't destroy vehicles or stolen property. And they do use high security for their evidence building. And that was Sheriff Wobeking that I talked to there. Washburn County uses a combination of indoor and outdoor storage, depends on the importance of the vehicle. And the deputy I spoke to, which was not identified, was fairly sure that the indoor storage was unheated, but not 100% sure. Got that. I think, yeah, we covered most of the emails I had provided you, the emailed evidence of that same mortgage release process that I've gone through for buildings that are solely city owned. You noted that, yeah, basically around 2 years ago to the date, property said that they were gonna look at other options for the sheriff, and obviously we haven't seen anything to date, and it's been 2 years. I know there's been a lot of money spent on other stuff in the last 2 years. Maybe some stuff that some people might classify as wants over needs, without getting into the specifics on that, because we don't need to fight over that right now. Other than that, there was also just one other email that I had sent. A state grant opportunity had actually come up through, I believe, the Department of Administration, using some of their COVID money, their ARPA funds, whatever you want to call it, that provided a matching grant for programs aimed at preventing and investigating crime, as well as initiatives focused on improving emergency response and forensic services. The goal being to contribute to safer communities, expediting investigations, and decreasing the resources required for public safety efforts. I sent that on January 4th, 2024. And I don't know if the county ever looked into that opportunity at all. Obviously, that grant period has come and gone. I didn't hear of any awards being made in our county. Maybe we did apply or look into it. Maybe a committee shot the idea down, but that was put out there. So it feels like, to me, in all honesty, and Chief Deputy, this isn't really against you because you're just kind of coming into your new role, but it feels like we keep kicking the can on this. Well, we need a few months to do this, or yeah, we'll look into this, and we'll hope in the meantime everybody else quits paying attention and worrying about it. And we kind of do for a couple months, it gets brought back up, and we have essentially the same song and dance again. You're new to this board, Mr. Goodis is new to this board, other than when he served on it with the city back in the day. But it was kind of the same with your predecessors. Nobody was willing to to push the issue, I guess, on the county end. And why would you if you're occupying 20,000 square feet of space for free? In the meantime, though, I've heard countless comments in county property, county finance that these properties aren't bringing in enough money. The city's screwing us over by not contributing, on and on and on. And the response of this committee has been, well, let's charge the private sector more. Let's up their rent. But I guess, is that fair to our local employers to cover shortfalls in buildings that could be covered if we were collecting rent on the full building instead of 2/3 of it? I guess I'll ask that to you, Mr. Chief Deputy. I think economic development is important here in our town.
Chair.
You can.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
is,
Yeah, this is beyond.
Well, I think you had a quote in the paper that said if we ask questions, you'd answer them. Maybe the assistant editor can call you outside of this meeting and ask that question. I'd love to see an article on that. But yeah, so where I'm getting, I guess, is the can just keeps getting kicked down the road. The county, hasn't taken really much responsibility. I think your commentary here that the county hasn't held stuff up is probably the greatest admission of that I've heard from anybody at the county. So thank you for that, Mr. Coggins. That I think I'm done.
Anybody else?
Just real quick, I guess, what I'm trying to gather is what recommendation would you as the new sheriff make to the property committee or the county board as a whole for the future of your storage needs?
Curious, let's see if there's actual legal documentation that says we must vacate that building. I think the question being asked, but no documentation has been brought forward.
So would you like to? I guess if there was an option for you to stay in that building, if we could be released from this stuff, would you want to stay in that building?
You mean if this
If we could be released from
county would own it?
what? Sure.
We would stay because it meets our needs. I mean, we've toured, I think, 6 or 7 other county city owned buildings and none of them sufficient for our evidence storage. Toured them 7.
I'll pose that question to Mr. Coggins then. Have you seen any documentation that says the property was funded and was supposed to be used for a certain purpose? I know you haven't gotten through everything fully yet.
I saw in the application for the grant what was stated as the intended purpose. I have not seen from the acceptance letter their statement yet. I haven't gotten through all that documentation.
In reviewing the agreement and mortgage, does it reference sticking to what you said in your application and what it says in the agreement?
Yes.
Okay. So I guess there's your documentation, sir. And I came up with a couple more things if you'll give me the time.
And stay on topic.
We'll try my best. So, yeah, as I think you've seen that email from Mr. Alvarado recounting kind of how stuff came to be. And that the city contingent on joint management at the time, which included myself as a voting member, were told that it would be a temporary use while the county looked for a space and that it would absolutely yield to the private sector, which you've seen now in at least one email wasn't the case. I think that influenced our vote on whether or not to allow that temporary use. And, now digging in deeper, I mean, we just took stuff at its word back then. Digging deeper and knowing the requirements that it's under, I probably would have voted no either way back then. So I'll admit that, yeah, I didn't vote correctly, and that's without being, and I don't even think we were intentionally misled at the time. But promises that were made obviously haven't been kept up. When we have have shown it to people and it's just, can be just hearsay, I think, for the most part, but I believe I have an email somewhere even from the outgoing sheriff that, well, yeah, if you find somebody, we can't give you a definitive date when we can move out because we have to find a place first. Now, if you're running a business and trying to find space to rent, are you gonna take just an indefinite, it'll open up at some point or, no, you're gonna move on and you're gonna find something that has a set date that you can move in and start going because your whole business plan revolves around that. I had one tell me, well, geez, we don't really want to be the ones responsible for kicking the sheriff to the curb. That wouldn't look very good for us. I'll take that heat, no offense, sir. So again, I don't think there's a document that says you have to get out because I don't think this committee has taken any action on it yet. And this is the committee that can or can't take that action. But, all right, now I think I'm done.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Kenyon.
So the EDA documents that require a release that we have to apply for to release these requirements, who can apply for that release?
The owner of the subject property.
And that is jointly the city and county at this time.
Correct. The city's listed as the lead applicant though. So yeah, that's my ass. Maybe 1/7 your ass in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
But sorry, my French.
Okay, I've got a little question. Who would we have a 15-year contract with as far as financing went? EDA or is it?
EDA.
It is.
Yeah.
Do we know whether it's a 15-year or a 20-year? Have we got that clear anywhere in the papers that you've got?
One document states 15 years, one document states 20 years.
From EDA?
Yeah, there's contradictory
And that
documents.
was signed when? What month? 20?
October of
Excuse me.
2004,
Okay, so 4 and 15 years would be 19.
a year after this board gave the sheriff's department.
That was going to be my question. I was trying to see if we could if there was a way to have it be 2018. Then we could say as of 2018, we've met all the conditions, whatever, we would like to see this agreement terminated. So we have the ability to move on, something to that effect. That doesn't put the city in a position where we have allowed, or the county have allowed a government entity to occupy the building, especially no rent or no revenues or anything else, which may have kept someone else from coming in. But at that point, we could say as of 2018, we've met the conditions that were required of us, and therefore we would like to terminate the agreement. Yeah,
It doesn't appear that,
if it's 2018 and 2019 was the magic date, no, doesn't matter.
And the CFR code that is referenced in all the documents say that the rules are still in effect until you request that. So yeah, you could say.
Like post dating a check. You
Yeah,
can't-
it should have been
As of.
done in 2018, but we've held it and still operated it the same way and we haven't been released.
Unless the original agreement was 20 years. If you got something that says 15 and something that says 20, I don't know which one was signed.
Marty, the recorded one.
recorded one is 15,
Yes,
one with registered was 15.
as of 2024.
As of 2000.
2004,
I meant 20,
yeah.
So-
2004. excuse
So we were compliant at that time. We were, because the sheriff didn't move in until 2019. I'm just trying to get this timeline right.
No, they-
If we were at the
me.
50,
18, I thought.
Moved in 18.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, it was approved in, guessing that thing, sometime after that.
Yeah, I think there's minutes around there that says sheriff is occupying north portion of Gates or
Okay.
something to that effect. But yeah, 314.10 procedures for release of federal interest. At the expiration of a project's estimated useful life and upon written request of a recipient, the assistant secretary may release the federal interest in project property if EDA determines the recipient has made a good faith effort to fulfill all terms and conditions of the investment assistance, The determination provided for in this paragraph shall be established at the time of recipient's written request. So we're in effect until they get a written request.
But we're not at the lifespan or life's end of that property either. And I think that was part of their comments, that if you reach that point, then you can make your request. And I'm just saying, if we sent them a letter and say that as of, can we be released as of that date? I mean, what do we lose? We're not saying that, you know, we've done something we probably shouldn't have, because I don't think anybody there is gonna want that kind of have to deal with that. So if we say as of that date, we met the conditions, even if we say, because we can temporarily use the space for a couple of months or whatever, and that would put us into 2019. And I think there's ways to word this that at some point in time, the property becomes the county's property, and whether they want to pay up the rent that was, or the lease that was to us, or the city's portion of it, or whatever. I think at that point in time, once we get the EDA out of the picture, then maybe we can work something else out. And if everybody's happy that they're out there and that's where they want to be kept, then maybe the city needs to get out from under that one.
We
and do
can't,
something separate.
we can't release it or do any of that with them in there, though, is what I'm getting at. EDA's release of the federal interest is not automatic. It requires EDA's approval, which will not be withheld except for good cause or is otherwise required by law.
I don't have a problem with that, except that we're not asking for the release as of 2024 or 2025. We're asking for the release effective 2018. And there's a lot of stuff that's been overlooked in this.
We can debate this all day long, but
I'm just asking a question to see if there's a way around this, because what I'm hearing is there isn't.
No,
Well,
it shall be established by at the time of the written request. And the written request, if it comes this year, is in 2025. So you have to count that time.
Understand?
So, yeah.
you even, I think, we want, we gotta reconciliation, it's gonna have to go to a lawyer. So
I think,
why are we sitting here debating it when it's
I
got
think the EDA has better lawyers than we've got.
ways, but
Yeah, and I think they have the ability to say, no,
you can read whatever you want, and
well.
we're not gonna understand it like.
What they want, oh, I think
professionals gonna.
if you read this, you can understand it. And we're in a position where this committee allowed the sheriff's department to move in and nobody ever had them move out.
Right.
Okay, so I'm trying to come to a situation where we can say, as of the termination date, we apologize, we kind of lost track of this. We realize now that we probably should have done this in 18 or 19, whatever. Will you release us so that we can continue to use this facility in ways that benefit the county and the city and the area? That's all. And I don't,
Yeah.
so we have the county put it together and send it.
So that
Their
was,
name's not even on it.
see, that's my follow-up question. Can we transfer that authority that's on there? You know, it's under the city's name. Can we transfer it to the county and the county can say, we're using it?
Both parties are party to the agreement.
And
I think there's a way,
the
please try it.
the city's the lead agency. And guess what? We've been sitting here talking about it now. It's all public record about how we're gonna try to tell the EDA
No,
that we forgot.
I'm trying to say how we messed.
It's hard to play dumb at this point when we've
It
been
is.
talking about it for a while.
And it hasn't even just been this meeting. It was brought up in 21, 22. Property talked about it. The administrative coordinator literally asked the county property committee to override this body's authority and say that nobody could show that part of the building.
Don't think I said that, Alan.
It's in recorded,
No, not quite.
it's in the link I sent. That's not available for showing. And I've got emails even refusing to let an electrician in from both the sheriff and the
Well-
admin coordinator.
And in that part of the building, Alan, even if I said, yeah, go ahead,
Correct,
I don't have
but-
keys and that's protected.
But it's the
evidence.
county. Somebody acted on the county's behalf to withhold access to that building for use by a private entity. I've had an email drafted and sitting in my drafts for a couple of years now. And I'm fine with sending it if we want to just get this taken care of and have them come in here and, tell us whatever. I don't know if, federal inquisition is another affair that, that we want to get into here. But, you know, either way, whether it was 15 years, whether it was 20 years, according to the CFR, we're still subject to those terms because we never requested a release. And in those terms, it says that you're still under those terms up through the date you request the release. So again, something's coming in 2025 saying, yeah, it got done, we think in 19, maybe in 24, but we're just requesting it now. Can you forgive us for these couple of years? I'm absolutely not being a party to that, and I wouldn't recommend that anybody else was either. I think once we do the right thing and find an appropriate space for the sheriff's department that is owned by the county, we find a paying tenant for that space and keep it tied up for the, let's say, 1 to 4 years that we've kind of screwed the pooch here.
I don't like that.
Amends that way.
I'm not comfortable with that term though. But the other thing is, there's still, what, 7, 8, whatever years of history where we did have a renter, we did have a tenant we weren't getting rent for, which is obviously in opposition to CFR and everything else. So I'm not saying I'm trying to slide something past. I'm saying that the letter says as of this date, we've met the terms. I'm not saying we lie. I'm not saying we do anything. We just say as of this date, we met the conditions. We would like to, we're asking for to be let out of this agreement.
And even if we use the 2019 date, though, we didn't meet the terms.
Okay, but the thing is that we're still at some point in time got those 5 or 6 years, whatever it is, that they could say, well, you didn't quite meet the terms here.
Which is why we need to take the correct action
At what
here.
point in time, and what is that correct action? And we need to
Finding a space for those folks that is appropriate.
understand that, but how do we eliminate
6 years of
6 years that we-
violation of it.
if
the
it was
point.
a violation?
You still don't, you maybe make up for it, and then after 5 or 6 more years, you say, hey, this came to light.
You can't say that. You told me I couldn't say that.
Right.
I tried to say it came to light and you said you can't say, that you just discovered it. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, can't we, what if we were to send them a letter that says this, what I had just said a few minutes ago? We don't even talk about what happened. We're just asking if we can, because now we've met those conditions. And I know you could say, well, you didn't really meet that last one, that last year, you came up a year short. But we still had it occupied. We still had people in there. We still were doing things.
Yep,
We probably
and
made more of an effort
Now,
than the
if
community.
somebody was turned away, then
they were. I'm not gonna give into that. I'm a little disappointed in folks suggesting that. I mean, you're putting any future federal funding to the county at risk. You're putting anything to the city at risk, and we're all putting ourselves at risk by trying to brush stuff under the rug.
I don't want to do that. I don't want to brush anything under the rug.
On top of that,
They'll go along with
on
it.
top of that, it was September or October of 2024, we set a payment rate for everybody in that building. And the sheriff's department was made aware of that, and at least according to the financials, they haven't paid a cent yet. Now, what do we do when the private sector doesn't pay? We talk about kicking them out. I know it came up in at least one county finance meeting, again, listening to recordings that, hey, there's gonna be $60,000 of rent that the sheriff's department has to pay. And I think the finance chair's comment was, well, they'll have to figure that out then. So they've been aware of it, and we're about to hit month 4 without a payment. Now, if Jim West didn't pay on his storage lease, we'd be all over him.
Jim West, part owner,
He is a tenant.
not part owner.
All right, so can we move the city PD out there into the offices then for free? If we're part owner, can we get in on the action? We pay, I think, 25 grand here. That's getting a little off topic, but it
it's right
ties
on
in.
topic.
So I feel like we can talk about this
And
for.
I'll take.
It's a circle.
I'll take it a step further, though. That building's paid out of the mining fund, which is for economic development. It's not paid out of your budget, which comes out of the general levy and any state aids you get. So again, is sheriff's department economic development? Is there anything other than, maybe building a larger jail so we can house inmates here and make money? Other than that, is there an economic development arm of the sheriff's department?
We're done.
So just, I'm trying to identify what we have for possible steps forward. We're at a
That's
point
what
where
we
we
need.
can't be released from this EDA based on what we know.
Right. So what options do we have?
And that's my question. Thank you for stating it.
I mean,
I
See, we consult our attorney and get his recommendation. How we want to proceed with this. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, so.
that'll
We
be,
understand the documents, but they sure understand them a lot better than we do.
yeah.
Because we pay people to inform us of the right way to do it. So that would be my suggestion is,
And the city's attorney said it this way, and I'm sure the county's attorney will say it a different way because attorneys are paid to try to find loopholes and stuff.
So
In arguments.
I'm having trouble remembering. I think we talked about this before and Rich's response was it's been the 15 years. This doesn't apply anymore. And then, because he read that in the rule and I think he stopped at that point. And then we found this law that says you have to apply for release. And that's kind of where we stopped talking about it for a while. So I think, can Rich go back and I don't, we're talking discussion here again, go back and look more into that and see.
I can talk to Rich.
I don't,
You have the documents, correct?
I've got everything you sent me.
Maybe pass them to the chief deputy as well, if you wouldn't mind.
So,
Legal counsel.
yeah, no, but I'll send you everything if there's anything.
You referenced you hadn't seen anything, so you must want to. You referenced you hadn't seen any documents, so you must want to see them.
Really made you angry today. I apologize.
No, it's not you so much. It's the whole process that we've been dealing with back and forth for a couple of years now.
and that's why I asked the chairman to invite you here today is because we've been talking about this for years. And it's,
You're in a crap spot because you're coming into it. You didn't make the mess.
I've been aware of the situation for several years.
Well, shame.
Well, I'm gonna call this discussion over. Not going anywhere. Plant Management Committee operating interest. We're gonna table any discussion on that. Pertaining to that though, couple months ago, the board tasked myself along with the former chair to negotiate with the city. And since then, our chairmanship has changed. And there's been health-related issues with one of the negotiators on the city side. So no progress has been made to date on that. I've been talking with the current chair and we're hoping to get something moving forward. So get some clarity on if he can actually be the other one, or we need to have a county board approval to have him appointed. Because the question was whether the chair was appointed to, or was that individual appointed to. So we need some clarity there. Next meeting, October.
we can go to October, that's fine.
April be the fourth Thursday. So that's
24th.
24th at 3.
I might be gone for that, so maybe you guys can have a more peaceful meeting.
And am I correct? Is it every year that the chairmanship alternates, or is that every 2 years?
Yeah.
That's what I thought, every year. So we'll need to elect a new chair at that point. So that being said, I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.